The current state of media really could be a storyline from Sunday's episode of Game of Thrones. You really shook up the industry, Richard, when you announced the launch of HBO Now. Very disruptive to have a standalone streaming service. So, as you look at that industry, this new evolving industry, and perhaps like a Game of Thrones episode, who are you? Are you a king? Are you a kingmaker?
So, you know, we're a content company, and we are a place that becomes, we think, a great magnet for talent and storytellers, the best writers, the best directors, the best producers. We say over and over again, because it has the virtue of truth, we're only as good as the people who come to work with us. And so what we work hard to do is to create an environment where the best people want to do their best work. And I think that's what we've done over the years. It becomes very catalytic, it becomes infectious, talent talks to talent. And I think when they get inside the HBO culture, they know the respect with which they're held, the way that we take care of people. We understand we're not the artists, right? We're not David Benioff and Dan Weiss. We're not writing Game of Thrones. Our job is to be smart enough to recognize talent when we see it, to know that we have a shared vision with that talent about what defines the best storytelling in the business, and then to give them the canvas to paint on. You mentioned HBO Now, so let's just be clear. HBO Now is an extension of our distribution system, and it is not in any way mutually exclusive. All of our partners have the opportunity to work with HBO Now. It's not just our new partners like Apple that can distribute it over the internet. We can distribute HBO Now through our cable partners, through our telco partners, our satellite partners. So we see this as a multilateral expansion of our brand, putting HBO in more homes, in front of more people here and around the world than ever before. So to us, it's a win-win. There's a temptation on the part sometimes of the press to make it reductive, to make it binary. You know, you're either Netflix and you're direct to consumer, or you're stuck in the old ecosystem. It's not true. It is an additive part of the landscape. We're just expanding the pie. That's what it's going on.
We've certainly heard you, Richard, say that this is a product that is targeted to a particular demographic. I think I've heard you say it's a millennial missile, right? Is that in fact what you're seeing? Are you seeing customers of that particular demographic come to it? Or
look, you know, a lot of HBO Go usage, which is our digital product tethered to the subscription, was skewed largely toward younger people. But you know, as more and more people get comfortable with digital products, I think more and more demographics are going to use it. The truth of the matter is that it is a very appealing product for so-called cord cutters or cord nevers who can't yet afford a cable subscription or a satellite subscription. But our hope, and we say this to our partners in the cable business and the satellite business, is get people into your ecosystem with a product that's as compelling as ours through your broadband-only distribution, and then move them into video bundles. So again, we think this is a very compelling additive product for our legacy partners, and we think it's a very compelling additive product to our new partners like Apple. And thankfully, they agree with us. And
Richard, a few weeks in, what can you tell us about your new customers?
I can tell you we're off to a really terrific start. I think, not to get too far out over my skis, it exceeded even our expectations in the first 3 weeks, the amount of appetite that there is for the product.
And why do you think you aren't seeing more cable providers sign up with you, like Cablevision?
You will. I think, you know, look, anytime there's a change, there's an element of resistance. But I've met with all of our partners. We've brought some very empirical and compelling data to them about how exciting this can be for their respective businesses. Look, nobody's doing us any favors in selling HBO, right? They're growing their own businesses. And together, I have a very simple proposition to all of those people. Use us. You know, when we started thinking about the pivot in our business to multilateralism, we did a very simple thing. We looked at the landscape out there and we said, you know, our hunch is, as we watched ourselves grow in 2013 more than any time in 13 years, and then we watched ourselves grow last year more than any time in 30 years. And so it compelled me to think, you know, there's probably a lot of running room out there. And I hired a friend of mine, a great political pollster named Doug Schoen, and I said, let's see how many undecided voters there are out there. I think there's probably a lot of them. And I think the reason a lot of them might be undecided is we're too close to ourselves. We think everybody knows what the product is. We think everybody knows we have 4 Hollywood movie studios under license. We think everybody understands what HBO Go is. My hunch is they don't. So let's go find out how many undecided voters are there. Are they persuadable? Can we get them into the House? And how receptive would they be to a multilateral approach to distribution? And the data that came back to us was very, very dynamic. And there are you know, upwards of 15 million homes out there who, when they understand the value proposition in the range of our content, they move from the undecided category to the persuadable category. So when we're talking to our partners, we're saying to them, look, we think there's gold in the hills. Let's go get it together. And again, you know, when Comcast sells HBO or Charter or Time Warner Cable or DirecTV or AT&T or Verizon, they're growing their businesses. We're helping them grow their businesses. We have a unique product, and they know it, and we know it, and that's terrific for us. And what we want to do is we want to expand out into the consumer base as deeply as we possibly can.
Along the lines of cable, today the big news is that Comcast has said it is going to withdraw. It has withdrawn its merger with Time Warner Cable. Huge news. What does that mean for HBO? Is that a good decision for HBO?
Listen, they made the decision. They made the decision based, I think, on some of what they heard from the agencies. For us, look, we are a content company, and we want to partner with everybody. And so whatever form, whether Comcast is buying Time Warner Cable, whether Charter is buying Time Warner Cable, whether Comcast is buying other systems, whether Direct is buying AT&T, we want to use our product to help those distributors grow. And we're going to do that as aggressively as we can, because when you look at the research and when we bring the research to our partners, we are a magnet for new consumers. And so we think we have something that helps them expand their business in a very, very competitive ecosystem. So I like our hand a lot because I like our product, and whatever form the distribution takes, we were very determined to build maximum flexibility into our model. That's why we designed HBO Go when we did, and that's why we migrated to, or evolved, I should say, to HBO Now.
On this last question of the merger, one thing that regulators have told me actually is that they decided to reject the merger, and they were going to reject the merger before Comcast decided to pull out, because they wanted to protect streaming services like yours. So they really are looking at this universe of the media and really at the totality of the ecosystem. And I wonder what message that sends to you, even though you say you're just a content company, a very powerful content company, but as Washington looks at media in the totality of an ecosystem where the lines are really blurred, what a signal to send to you?
You know, what you want, it seems to me what you want to do is you want to create as much incentive for investment as you possibly can in new technology and new innovation. And you want to liberate content providers to have multifaceted ways to get their content to all kinds of different people. So we love HBO Now not only because we think, as I've said, it's a millennial missile. I do think it's an appealing millennial product. But as we start looking at the early returns, if you will, as to how people are responding to Now, it's stunning to us how broad the demographic is. Why? Because some people want the convenience of just being able to pull their iPad out and subscribe to HBO, get it that way. Other people will use their iPad to watch HBO Go, which is tethered off the subscription. Again, we want to create all kinds of optionality for the consumer. That's our goal, and that's what we're driving toward. That's what our model is directed to do.
One thing that, Richard, you're telling me backstage was, and this is really after my own heart, he is one of the, maybe the handful of people in New York City who subscribes to the paper version of the Washington Post.
Yes, I do.
Among many newspapers, you
And
read
excuse
about.
me, I don't only subscribe, I read the Washington
Read the
Post.
whole thing.
That's right.
A good 2.5 hours, that's right? Just read newspapers
I
a
spend
day?
an inordinate amount of time reading newspapers, and it's a bit of a junkie syndrome, but yes, I do.
So, I mean, you really live now straddling very much the old world, the legacy world, and the new digital world with HBO Go. Some might say it took a while for HBO to get there, and you talked about the process and really the political metaphor that you had in thinking about coming out now. Talk a little bit about why you decided to go with Apple, why now, and are you a little behind? Netflix has more subscribers than Comcast and you combined.
That's actually not true. We have 127 million global subscribers. We're amortizing our programming off
right, revenue,
127 million. Our earnings are close to $2 billion. I don't want to get into the disparity of it. They're very different business models doing very different things. Look, I don't think we've been slow at all. I think we've been appropriately evolutionary. We have a very robust and dynamic business with our cable partners, our satellite partners, our telco partners. We want to preserve, protect, defend, and expand those relationships, and we want to build maximum flexibility into our model. Why Apple? They have devices in 53 million homes. We thought the brands aligned beautifully. We think they're a premium brand in the technology and device world. We think we're a premium brand in the content world. We spoke seamlessly to each other from the very beginning. The partnership has been nothing but a pleasure, and I think it's going to grow and expand both here and around the world. We did a 3-month exclusive deal with Apple, and after that, obviously, we'll move on to new digital distributors as well. Again, this isn't cannibalistic. It's not mutually exclusive. It is a multilateral approach to distribution. And all it does is create new ways for different consumers to watch us when they want, how they want, and where they want. That's just a great, as I've said to many of our partners, this is not a zero-sum game. This is actually good for your business, good for HBO, and good for the consumer. Nobody has been able to make an argument to me anywhere, and I've talked to just about everybody in our business, why that simple fact isn't true.
I know you're passionate about the HBO brand. Can you describe, how would you describe it? And also, how can you maintain it online when you have Netflix spending $3 billion, Amazon only going to spend more and more with instant video, and they have an $80 billion business backing it. They have, with all these new content creators coming online, how will you maintain what you consider to be your brand?
Look, we have been faced with competition from the very beginning of HBO stepping on stage with original programming. It was considered, when I came to HBO 22 years ago, it was considered unfathomable that we could compete with network television. People looked at us like we were crazy. In the very early days, when our name was called during the Emmy Awards, just invoked, we were tickled to death, And then basic cable and other premiums came, and now you have Amazon doing good work. Welcome to the NFL, I mean, there's a lot of people doing good work, big deal. Our job is to play our game, work with the best people that are out there, and I'm happy to tell you, Cecilia, look, this is no great secret. We have a surfeit of talent at our door that wants to work with us because we have a brand that stands for excellence and quality and content. And at a time when there's more competition than there's ever been in our business, we have the #1 show on in our history. We have the #1 freshman show on in our history. We have more quality hours on, more quality half hours, more late night. We have more content across more genres on HBO now of a higher quality than any time in our history. So what do I say? I say, great. It's elevated our game, keeps us on our toes. The line at our door is, our challenge is being able to do everything that we want to do. Not is there a dearth of people at our door because, there's content. Second point I would make to you is this. There's a tendency, and again, this gets, I think, silly, to think of this as a zero-sum game. It's not a zero-sum game. there's going to be a good show on Showtime. There's going to be a good show on AMC. There's going to be a lot of people doing very good work. Meanwhile, we're doing the best work in our history. So I like our hand a lot. I like it because the best people want to come work with us. We have, this is a team sport, and we have the best team in the business. We have the best creative teams, we have the best marketing teams, we have the best PR teams. When people get into the HBO culture, they say it all over Hollywood and they say it all over New York. That's where I want to be. So we're just trying to create that home, continue to elevate our work.
Who's your next Lena Dunham or your next Game of Thrones creator?
Well, we just, have we picked up, yes, so I can, so
Please tell us.
I gotta remember whether we picked it up or not. The Sarah Jessica Parker's coming back to HBO with a show called Divorce. It's one of the most extraordinary pilots that we've seen. Molly Sims and John Hayden Church. It's really superb. And again, Sarah waited till she had exactly the right thing to bring to us. And where did she come to when she was ready? She came to HBO. Marty Scorsese has written with Mick Jagger, executive producing, but really executive producing, not nominally executive producing, a show called Rock and Roll, which is New York City, 1970s, the kind of cross-section of the political music industry. It's kind of a casino in the music business. Extraordinary first episode pilot, which we're going to do Lewis and Clark as a mini series, which we're very excited about. We're going to do, look, all of the what happens with us, which is very exciting, is there is a backlog, and we have to choose between an enormous amount of extraordinary work. But I think if you look at Silicon Valley only in its second year, if you look at the evolution of Veep, which I think just keeps getting better and better and smarter, there's a tremendous amount of running room left, even in shows that have only been on 1 or 2 years, and then you start adding all of these new products. It gets very exciting.
One thing, you got your start, Richard, here in Washington, actually working for Senator Chris Dodd, who is in the audience, I think.
Right there.
Right there. That's
right.
And I think there are a few people actually who are able to navigate or really are the center of several power sort of centers in the U.S. There's D.C., then there's New York and L.A., and you're in those worlds. But increasingly, you're spending more time in Silicon Valley. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing out there that excites you the most? Are there any companies that really got your interest and where we might be surprised to see HBO on?
Look, I think we're going to, obviously we began with Apple, and we have enormous dexterity. We built out HBO Go, which is a widely awarded and recognized digital product. And we waited for the time and place of our choosing to launch our standalone streaming service. We have done this in an evolutionary way that made sense for our business. You know, is a $5 billion worth of revenue. We make about, we're not doing so bad.
You aren't doing so bad.
For slow people.
You aren't doing so bad for nimble people with realistic expectations.
That's better.
So, when you look out in 5 years, will we have TV as we know, traditional TV, linear TV is sort of the nomenclature. Will that exist?
Yeah.
Will we?
Yes, it will exist. The balance, I mean, the proportion of how people watch television, linear versus on demand. Here's a couple of interesting data points about, say, the last 3-4 years. So, take our Sunday night viewing. You know, you might be surprised to know that over 85% of our viewing on Sunday, of our particular show, occurs on a non-premiere night. So people are watching John Oliver on demand, they're watching it on HBO Go, they're watching it on HBO Now, they're watching it on, so they're not watching it Sunday night. So the kind of destination viewing which so characterized in the days of The Sopranos, you know, you had to be there. You could watch it even in Sopranos days on multiplexed HBO feeds. But everybody has internalized that there are many options to watch the network. So I think where we're moving is, if it's 85%, you know, non-premiere night, that might actually increase to 90% because people will watch it on Monday. People will watch it on Sunday night after the premiere. People will pull it on HBO Go, and so we're moving to more flexibility in the hands of the consumer. That's where we're moving. But I was at Yale yesterday talking to a bunch of, you know, young students. It was very interesting to me. They want optionality. They want to be able to watch some shows on their devices, and they want to be able to watch Game of Thrones or True Detective or any one of the 4 Hollywood movie studios which we happen to license on a 60-inch flat screen TV. Mm-hmm. And how they get there, whether it's a smart TV or whether it's through a lightly bundled cable subscription, they're going to have all those options. I don't think the bundle, I don't think a newly evolved bundle, if you will, so that people have more dexterity as to what they can choose, evaporates anytime soon.
People do want more options. And would you be willing to put out all of a series at once, a season? So Game of Thrones season 6 all at once so we can binge watch it?
I'm not such a reflexive proponent of binge watching for a couple of reasons. Number one, take a show like The Jinx, which did extremely well for us, which was a slow build revelation about this extraordinary murder mystery. I don't think it would have been a great thing for HBO or for our brand if that had been gobbled up, you know, in the first week. I think it was very exciting for the viewer to have that mystery held out for an extended period of time, or a show like Serial. Number two, there's something very powerful about having a conversation in the culture occurring for 10 weeks, 12 weeks, 13 weeks about your programming, occupying social media over that period of time, expanding the conversation about your brand for 12 weeks. You put on a show and binge it, that happens to be one way to watch it, but then it's exhausted. So I love the idea that people are talking about Game of Thrones on Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook for 10 weeks. I think that's great for HBO and the brand. And I also think people enjoy the treat of waiting for the next episode.
Speaking of the series that sort of started all this, House of Cards, and with your start with Senator Dodd in politics and
House
in
of
DC.
Cards started all what?
Binge watching. That was one of the first series that came out, right? Where you could see the whole series at once, the whole season. I know I'm a little over the place. I'm not slow though. And
no. I'm
neither are you.
I wanted to make sure I understood.
Do you watch House of Cards? And what are you watching on other networks that really interest you?
I love Mad Men. I thought it was superb. I'm still watching it to the end. I thought Breaking Bad was absolutely superb. I'm a Homeland fan. I admit, I know it's a little cheeky, but I love Downton Abbey. And I thought I thought that Julian Fellows
There's
did
no
a brilliant
shame,
job of that.
no
So
shame.
I'm a junkie on all matters, and I also am very public in complimenting other great work. I think it's great for our industry. I think it's great for the world of television that so much talent is coming to our business. We're doing a joint pay-per-view fight with Showtime,
Right, the big fight.
Pacquiao Mayweather next Saturday, and Les Moonves and Matt Blank and I have been talking a lot and putting this together. And we say to each other all the time, I think it's sincere, you know, they're going to do good work, there's going to be a good show on Showtime, that's fine. That has nothing to do with HBO's growth or evolution. The only problem would be with all this good competition is if we weren't playing our game and delivering excellence. As long as we play our game and deliver excellence, I think we're going to enjoy continually more than our fair share of attention and acclaim, because we have a blessing that we are, not all the time, but very often, port of first call for the storytellers who we want to work with. And that's our great advantage, and we're going to press on that advantage.
Can you talk a little bit about your entry, not entry, but your move further into news with Vice News? You have John Oliver, which is a form of news as well. Where is news in the HBO universe, and where do you see that headed?
You know, we look at it more as innovative storytelling that can have the patina of journalism more than straight journalism. So we were big fans of Shane's and the Vice voice, if you will. And so what we said to them is, look, let's do more of this. We loved the way they told stories. Quite frankly, is a brave collection of journalists moving around Africa and the Middle East and Southwest Asia. They were not staying at the Ritz-Carlton. You know, they were doing very gritty, difficult work and bringing back great stories. And so we said to them, well, let's do more. We didn't say to John when he came in, you know, let's turn this into a new form of journalism. We said to John, we like your voice. We think our DNAs are aligned. Why don't you iterate this however you're comfortable doing it? He came up with the main story idea, which has become, you know, so compelling. Bill Maher's show, I think, is a very smart, very engaging, cultural, political hybrid talk show. But Bill has very serious writers, politicians, journalists on the front of the show, giving them a voice. So look, our door is wide open all the time to storytellers. And if that takes the form of documentary production, you know, we did Scientology just in the last, you know, couple of months. We've done Scientology. We have a documentary which will come on in the fall, which we premiered at Tribeca last night on Richard Holbrooke and his career. We did Citizen4. So it's really multifaceted, and we look at all those things more under the rubric of storytelling than pure journalism. But if we can find a way to shape and frame journalism like we do with Vice, we'll do that as well.
Richard, you talked about building attics of the HBO shows. What are you addicted to within your own roster of shows?
I'm addicted to the entire
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. What was the last thing you
to it.
watched with your daughter and wife that you all enjoyed?
The last thing that well, that would be a YouTube, to be honest with you, it's a YouTube, there's a young, very talented young woman on YouTube that my daughter is addicted to called Miranda Sings.
Oh, yeah.
You ever heard of Miranda Sings? I knew nothing about this. I was introduced by my daughter. She's clearly in her early 20s. She has kind of a persona that she adopts. And I was having lunch earlier today over at the Atlantic, and one of the executives over there says, oh, you know, my kid is equally obsessed with that. So, you know, HBO is a little bit more of an adult service than is appropriate for an 11-year-old. But I must say that I do use the phrase, what we really want is passion and engagement from as wide a cross-section of our audience as we can. And everybody doesn't have to love everything, but we do want what you love to be turbocharged by a kind of core gut, you know, connection with the show. So people don't say, you know, I like Thrones. They love Thrones. They love Silicon Valley. They love Veep. They, you know, I saw, I mean, if just listening to the way people talk about our shows, John Oliver, you know, is very exciting.